Fleet Week, Port Everglades 2021. My name is Alexandra Anagnostis. I'm the co-chair of Broward Navy Days and president of Total Marine Solutions. So we'd like to welcome you here to the first ever virtual Salute to Women in the Military event. And we're so happy to have Captain Jo-Ann Burdian here as our keynote speaker.
Thank you.
So the Salute to Women in the Military event connects high-ranking military officials and successful civilians in the maritime sector to enlisted men and women in the military. The event started back in 2015 when Mary Ann Gray, our past president and executive director, who we sadly lost last July, encouraged me to join Broward Navy Days. So Total Marine Solutions is a proud sponsor of the Salute to Women in the Military year after year. Due to the COVID pandemic, Fleet Week Port Everglades had to go virtual because we're unable to welcome ships and their crew for a second year in a row. So our board decided to host virtual events in order to stay connected to our military and those in our local communities. So as I said, our keynote speaker for the Salute to Women in the Military 2021 event is Captain Jo-Ann Burdian, Sector Miami's commander and captain of the port. And Captain, I'd like to offer a little bit of your bio, if that's okay?
Sure.
Captain Burdian assumed command in May 2019 and directs all Coast Guard missions along the 182 miles of Florida coastline, including Port Miami, the Miami River, Port Everglades, and the Port of Palm Beach. She serves as captain of the port, officer in charge of marine inspection, federal maritime security coordinator, search and rescue missions coordinator, and federal on-the-scene coordinator for the over 250,000 square miles that constitute the Sector Miami area of responsibility. Captain Burdian is a Coast Guard permanent cutterman and honorary chief whose previous operational assignments include Chief of Response at Sector Puget Sound, Commanding Officer of the U.S. Coast Guard Cutter Key Biscayne in St. Petersburg, Florida, and Executive Officer of the U.S. Coast Guard's Cutter Attu in San Juan, Puerto Rico. Captain Burdian previously served as Coast Guard liaison to the U.S. House of Representatives, where she managed all service engagements with members of the Congress. She advised senior Coast Guard leaders in all matters related to the House of Representatives and advocated for multi-billion-dollar acquisition programs and advancing authorizing legislation. Captain Burdian took advantage of the Coast Guard temporary separation program to care for her sons and drilled as a member of the selected reserve at Sector St. Petersburg, Florida. Upon her return to active duty, Captain Burdian served as Commander Center Chief at Sector Miami, Florida. Captain Burdian's additional assignments include as Senior Duty Officer in the White House Situation Room and Assistant Liaison to the U.S. House of Representatives in Washington, D.C. She began her career as First Lieutenant, U.S. Coast Guard Cutter Courageous in Panama City, Florida. Captain Burdian grew up in Queens, New York and Sunrise, Florida. She graduated from the Coast Guard Academy in 1997 with a Bachelor of Science in Government. She also holds a Master's in Public Administration from Florida State University. Her military awards include the Defense Meritorious Service Medal, the Coast Guard Meritorious Service Medal, the Coast Guard Commendation Medal, and Coast Guard Achievement Medal. Captain Burdian is married to Captain Stephen Burdian of Briarcliff, New York. She has 3 handsome sons, Jack, Sean, and Jane. So, welcome again, and thank you, Captain Burdian, for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you, Alex. Welcome to Sector Miami. I'm sorry, that's such a mouthful.
It's wonderful to get to know you through it. So after a year of being fully virtual, it's so nice to be able to sit with someone in person.
I totally agree.
I'm just sorry that we didn't have the 100+ service women and men that usually join us, but through this virtual event and virtual platform, I think we'll be reaching far more. So I'm looking forward to learning more about you, sharing your story with our audience. You're the 2nd consecutive female sector commander for Sector Miami.
Mm-hmm.
A fact I think really underscores the diversity and opportunity of a career in the Coast Guard. So can I ask you, what originally drew you to the Coast Guard?
Well, I come from a family of public servants. My father was a New York City police officer. I grew up in Queens, and before she decided to stay home with us kids, my mother was a nurse,
Awesome.
which is actually how they met. So I sort of grew up with a strong sense of civic duty and national pride, and the truth is, with two public servants as parents, when it came time to look at college,
Right.
My sister, who had decided she wanted to go to medical school at the University of Florida, there weren't enough financial resources to support us, both going at the same time. So I really started looking for ways to go to college for free. And I like to call my decision to go to the Coast Guard Academy the least informed, best decision I've ever made.
That's a good way to put
Because
it.
the only boat I'd ever been on was the Staten Island Ferry.
Oh, wow.
But I got this card in the mail from the Coast Guard Academy and thought, this sounds free.
Right.
And that really is what turned me on to the military. I applied to the Coast Guard Academy and for a Navy ROTC scholarship. Was lucky enough to get picked up for both, but really I thought a smaller school with a full-time uniformed focus was a better fit, so I went to the Coast Guard Academy.
That's fantastic. Isn't it funny how sometimes we just end up places pure happen chance?
I really, thank you, universe.
Right.
Yes, I feel very lucky.
That's fantastic. So it's great to know that the Coast Guard has a temporary separation program. And when I was researching it, I found that just recently it expanded to all active duty and beyond just family care.
Right.
So it allowing active duty members to pursue opportunities that they perhaps wouldn't otherwise when active. So can I ask you, it sounds like a great way to attract women and men to the Coast Guard. What did it mean for you? And what if you know of others that have taken advantage of it?
Yeah, I do, and thank you, Alex. Really, the temporary separation program is such an important part of my story as a wife and as a mom and as a Coast Guard officer. When I was working as a senior duty officer in the White House Situation Room, we had our twins who were born very, very prematurely, and so they just weren't well. They weren't thriving when they were young, and then we had our younger son a year and 5 days later.
Oh my gosh.
So it was time for my husband to go back to sea, and I had made the difficult but right for me choice not to go back to sea at that point.
Right.
But we couldn't co-locate. We were having some difficulty as you know, many folks who were military to military couples do find it's a challenge. And as hard as we were working and as hard as the Coast Guard was working with us, it wasn't working. So I decided to pause my career and stay home with my kids. And I thought the Coast Guard was just gonna fall, the wheels were just gonna fall right off the Coast Guard. Shocking to me, because you know, at that point I had 6 years at sea, 2 of those in command.
Wow.
3 years on Capitol Hill, including
big decision.
Being on the Hill for 9/11 and the transition and creation of this new Department of Homeland Security. So I really felt as though I was working hard and contributing, but what an important thing for me as a person to really reset my priorities.
Absolutely.
I stayed home with my 2 sons and supported my husband and his XO ride, and they turned out fine, and really Coast Guard turned out fine too. But it really, I think, you know, those 2 years, one, enriched my marriage and my relationship with my children in a way that is irreplaceable.
Right.
Give me perspective now as a senior leader with 1,000 combined active duty civilian and reserve personnel here. Helps me understand what it's like to be a military spouse, who's, you know, on the home front, you know, waiting for their spouse to come home, and what it's like to be a reservist, someone who's balancing a full life on top of their military responsibilities. So I think it was good and humbling for me in a really productive way, and I've heard the same from others. It's just it's a wonderful program.
And how long was your separation?
Oh gosh, 23 months and 3 weeks. It was a 2-year program, and I took just about all of it. But I will say, what was really important to me and what I like to share with others was how important it was to really understand my responsibilities and my limitations within the program, and the timing of competing for assignments coming back. Because I had worked really hard, and in the Coast Guard, performance is the key to success.
Absolutely.
And so I really wanted to preserve that performance for future success. So, you know, for those folks who may be considering a temporary separation, find a mentor who's done it. Communicate with your assignment officers and read the directive to really understand how to communicate with your service and how to jump back in and succeed.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. So what role does the Coast Guard play here in South Florida? How is it different from your last command up in the Pacific Northwest? And what are some of the challenges and opportunities that you see here at Sector Miami?
Oh gosh, what a busy place Miami is
Yeah.
in any way. So along with our partners, and that's, partners at the federal, state, county, local level, and with industry, my job here at Sector Miami is to preserve the safety and security of the waterway and the people who are sailing on it,
Yes.
preserve the marine environment, and facilitate commerce. Our nation's ports and waterways, you and I talked about
Yes.
this,
Yeah.
bring in trillions and trillions of dollars of commerce every year.
Mhm.
And Port Miami, Port Everglades, and Port of Palm Beach, and the Port of Fort Pierce all contribute to our national economy by facilitating that inbound and outbound trade. So my job, the folks here who conduct marine inspections, who do investigations when there are incidents, who maintain the waterway, conduct search and rescue, pollution
Right.
response, all of those things are really designed to support this community and keep it economically viable and a place where people want to come and visit.
Yeah, and it's a fantastic place. Like I said, it's just gorgeous, this space here.
Yes.
So in our drive over, when we're coming over the causeway, we were so thrilled to see 4 or 5 cruise ships
Yes.
docked there, and we're so ready for them to get back into service. What did the past 14 months mean to that portion of your responsibility? That industry?
Our responsibility normally, when
Mhm.
we're not in a COVID environment, is the marine inspectors here conduct examinations to make sure that they can safely carry passengers, that they can do so securely,
Right.
and so they can keep their responsibility to the marine environment.
Yeah.
In a COVID environment, when the Centers for Disease Control issued the no sail order, our job was really to help facilitate conversations among the partners at all levels of government, to really make sure that all of those passengers and ultimately crew members could disembark and get home safely. We really weren't the decision authority
Right.
in those things, but as is true in so many office environments, the Coast Guard, we just tend to be good facilitators and
Absolutely.
connectors of people, and that's really the role we played there via the unified commands we stood up. And
Fantastic.
together, as a Coast Guard, with our federal partners, with the counties, with our partners in public health, with the ports themselves, and the cruise lines, we safely disembarked over 1 million people.
Wow,
Mm-hmm.
amazing.
Yeah, it's we're anxious to see them come back and
Get back into service and see the community bond and just our local economy really benefit from it as well.
yeah, we are supporting the CDC in their effort to work with the lines to restore that industry in a way that's safe.
Fantastic, wonderful. Okay, so you worked at Sector Miami earlier in your career as well, that we just heard about. So perhaps you can offer us a perspective of how things have changed, both pre-pandemic and now since the pandemic with the sector, just activities and what have you. The maritime industry, especially cruise, has grown very strong here prior to the pandemic, but the inability to sail has hit us hard. We just talked about that. So how has Sector Miami changed, and how has this impacted the work of the Coast Guard locally?
Well, it's interesting. At the beginning, like everyone else, we're just trying to keep up with the changing information. My priorities have always been to prevent the spread of COVID, to protect my crew members and their families, and to preserve our ability to operate.
Right.
Those are written down in a classroom somewhere here at the sector as part of a plan we rolled out last year. But at the very beginning, we were really surveying our crews to find out what is the impact on your ability to come to work. Because the truth is, I have 3 children. I'm a military member with a military spouse. We really had some challenges, just both of us coming into the workplace and
navigating all of that,
figuring it all out. And so we tried to be very cautious to create space for people to do their best work in a way that made sense given their other responsibilities, whether that was to aging parents, to the community, or to their children. So I think we did pretty well there.
Good.
At least I hope so.
Yes.
But the truth is, once the community started to open up a little bit, and it's been all over the news, there's sort of been this influx of folks who realize that they can go to the office from Monty's, and that means they're going to get on a boat and get out onto the water.
Right.
So there has been a real surge in safety and security operations on the water, in particular as it relates to passenger for hire operations.
Yes.
So it's been a fun challenge to get our arms wrapped around that. And again, it happens with the help of our partners throughout the community.
Yeah, and you must have seen that just on the recreational side, not just the passenger for hire, but people thinking, okay, I have all this free time.
Yes.
They're talking about the expendable savings with people not traveling as much as they have in the past. And sometimes it's not the safest place out there.
No, and I just, the truth is in the state of Florida, if you are born after January 1st of 1988, you're supposed to take an educational course before you get out on the water. But that's, it's kind of hard to enforce, not everyone does. So we do a lot of boater education, but, throughout the pandemic, our Coast Guard Auxiliary, which is our all volunteer workforce, we have 1,300 proud, amazing auxiliarists just in the Sector Miami AOR. They've been limited in what they're authorized to do because generally these are folks who are retired.
Right.
And so that age cohort is just at greater risk in a COVID-19 environment. So we've tried to find creative ways. We've created some virtual education programs, but we certainly are anxious for everyone to be able to get back because as you and I are experiencing now, human contact's important.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And we met last week and we talked about how invisible the maritime world can be to so many. So as we look to post our conversation online, do you have any closing remarks to that regard that you'd like to share with our audience on the importance of the maritime industry?
Well, we really are blessed with a system of, our nation's ports and waterways and our inland river system that delivers goods and services throughout our nation and gives folks, growing crops or producing aggregate in the middle of our nation the opportunity to export that overseas.
Right.
And I think, when you think about a service like the Coast Guard, the entire Coast Guard, where you have 40,000 people stationed on every continent on the face of the planet, except I suppose not permanently on Antarctica, but, it's a relatively small service. It's a $12 billion a year enterprise, which is not a lot of money when you're thinking about the federal budget.
Right.
I would hope that anyone watching maybe does a little digging about where everything in the room they're sitting in comes from.
Right.
Most of it has come in through a port or a waterway,
in the rail system,
in a big city,
exactly,
right? Like 40% of what's rolling around in America came through the Port of Long Beach.
Right.
And a port like Miami and Port Everglades, this South Florida maritime community is the gateway to the Caribbean. So, if like me, your grandmother lives in Puerto Rico and she's shipping you pasteles over, it's probably coming in.
That's it, on something floating,
it's kind of the way it works, but it really is sort of the invisible beating heart of the American economy.
Yeah. So in Broward Navy Days and hosting Fleet Week Port Everglades every year, and we really do hope we're able to welcome ships and crew to Port Everglades. That's one step of expanding the word of what the maritime industry does. So can I ask you, when it comes to the past Fleet Weeks that you've been participating in, what do they mean to you, and what have you heard from the service women and men? What does the Fleet Weeks mean?
It's a restoration of the connection between service members and the communities they serve. I had an amazing opportunity. It was the first Fleet Week after 9/11, and I sailed the Coast Guard Bark Eagle into New York.
Oh, wow.
And I have been blessed with pretty amazing opportunities, but there's not one that really competes with that for a sense of pride in the cloth of our nation and a sense of a connection with the people we serve. I mean, I just came from a business lunch and someone sitting next to me said, "Oh, thank you for your service." And something like Fleet Week is an opportunity to roll out your biggest flag and your best uniform and say, "You're welcome, you're worth it."
And for us to really sit and think. And it's interesting, my first Fleet Week with Broward Navy Days, we welcomed the USS New York into Port Everglades.
Oh, wow.
So it was really, really touching, and to be able to spend the time with the officers on crew and really get to know them and to get the feel and the personality of the ship, it was remarkable. So
It's wonderful.
Captain Burdian, thank you so very much for your service and for joining us today and being our keynote speaker for Salute to Women in the Military.
Thank you, Alex, and thank you for your service.
Thank you.
All right.